Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Come to me, all you that labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
May Christ be with you.
And also with you.
This is the Holy Gospel according to the book of Matthew. Praise to you, O Christ. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountainside, and after he sat down, the disciples had gathered around. Jesus began to teach them. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are those who are mourning, they will be consoled. Blessed are those who are gentle, they will inherit the land. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, they will have their fill. Blessed are those who show mercy to others, they will be shown mercy. Blessed are those whose hearts are clean, they will see God. Blessed too are those who work for peace, they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of their struggle for justice, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. You are fortunate when others insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of slander against you because of me. Be glad and rejoice, for your reward in heaven is great. They persecuted the prophets before you in the very same way. This is the good news of Christ.
Praise to you, O Christ.
So this morning we've come together and we've shared a lot of pictures of our memories and inspirations. We've heard readings from the scriptures that touch our hearts, encourage our spirits. We've noticed family resemblances in some of those pictures. We've remembered other times we've heard those words, other times that we have been touched by saints that were put up, and maybe even wondered who shares that saint's interest with us. Maybe we've even noticed a few faith resemblances, ways that we're showing the fruit of following that saint's example, that family member's example. So I want to ground our discussion in a few core teachings about sainthood, and then frankly get out of the way. First, we're all saints. Even when Paul was writing correcting letters, he addressed them to the saints of this or that town. Saint, sancte, santos, holy, sacred, set apart, blessed. Then there are those who carried on extra sense and reminder of that blessed presence, and people noticed. If lots of people noticed, they got followers who wanted to know what was in their holy water. Sometimes people kept on noticing, or even started noticing after their lives, or were so moved by their end that they got inspired. Inspired's an interesting word. Breathe in the Ruach. Smell and feel the spirit that lives in this person, in this teaching. So sometimes people would start looking into this person's life and teachings and get inspired enough to try to learn from them after they were no longer physically there. Some felt their presence even when they weren't there, or after they were there. All of those things go into a saint's cult. Now, cult is an old word for belief, and here's another interesting side note. Roman religions were respectable cultoi, not those unpleasant upstart religioi, like those Christians. Notice that the meaning of the word flips when we became the respectable ones, right? So we yearn as humans to follow impact. That person that makes that impression on us. We want to follow that example. We want to benefit from that teaching. We love holding up the ones we choose as great leaders and teachers. And I sometimes wonder if we also love being horribly disappointed to discover that in the end, all humans are all too human. And only one lived a life that, even with its anger and tears and doubts, was the living perfectly complete of godhood and manhood of Jesus the Christ. But that perfection itself can be a little off-putting, a little intimidating, a little scary. And so sometimes we find ourselves more comfortable talking to someone a little less perfect. And that's where the saints come in. So I was writing this Wednesday night while Chris was at her Kempo lesson. And often Libby teaches Chris. But this time Libby was learning one thing at her level, while Chris was learning another thing at her level. So Libby was working on polishing a technique she can teach, getting it just right. And Chris was learning on internalizing a simpler technique, deeper, understanding the body mechanics and motion as they paused and examined and explained. And both are learning from a teacher who's physically present with them. It's easier than learning through Zoom. But learning from Zoom or even a video is easier than learning from a book. And learning from a book is easier, at least if it explains the motions and mechanics, than learning from a still picture. We tend to learn better from the more concrete models. And we find it reassuring to learn from models that we know for sure have been there and done that before us, whose lives we can relate to, or hope to relate to. And aren't the names that we put and the pictures we put in that slideshow people in whom we felt that wise teaching, that inspiration? Weren't they saints that had an impact on the blessings we feel and can give in our own lives? I have no conflict considering Jeanette as Blessed Mother Jeanette Abbess and Hospitaller. I feel no greater conflict than in honoring Yersi and Michael. I hope that you have been blessed by the presence of one of those people who just glows godness. And I encourage you to take a moment and think if you have felt that impact. That person that lightens hearts when you walk into the room. I hope you have. And truly, truly, I say unto you, each one of us can become that presence. That person that just glows God. And I'm going to close with a Muppet song, because, well, this is me still. They used it a lot in their specials, sung by John Denver. Turns out it was actually written by a guy named David Pomeranz. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. The words of the verse may not be as familiar, but listen to this growth. It's in every one of us. I just remembered. It's like I've been sleeping for years. I'm not as awake as I can be, but my seeing is better. I can see through the tears. I've been realizing that I bought this ticket and watching half the show. There's scenery and lights in a cast of thousands who all know what I know, and it's good that it's so. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It is in every one of us by Him.